Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode here on European Confessions. The following story that you're going to be listening to, it was sent to me by one of our dear brother, and the message, it comes from a translation of a message that I received. The message, it reads like this. Hello, my brother, how are you? Can you please post my own story as hidden identity? My brother, I want to confess to you the things that me and my wife did. So when I went to do these rituals, I never hid this secret from my wife. In fact, my wife, she knows that I did these rituals and she assisted me. Oh yes, she assisted me. Let me tell you one thing about poverty. Poverty will reduce you and you will start to think as if you are no longer a human being. The things that happened to my brother when he was still in South Africa, that was like the final nail in the coffin. And I decided that since God had abandoned me and since God had abandoned my brother, it was far much better for me to take my own destiny into my own hands. I was never again going to rely on a foreign god to come to me to my rescue. My brother, when he went to South Africa, he did not have any papers. Unfortunately, when he was there, that was when he was stabbed by a knife. That was when he was stabbed, and my brother, unfortunately, he passed away. Since he had gone to that country without having any papers at all, for us to bring his body back to Zim, it proved to be a very difficult thing, and the money that was needed, it was quite a lot. It pains me, my brother, that we actually had to travel to South Africa so that we can bury him there. That is where he is buried. And when we returned back to Zim, we still had to struggle because he had his own kids that were now left without anyone who was going to be able to look after them financially. So me and my wife, since we were the ones who were the only ones that were staying in the city, because the rest of our relatives, they stay in the village, so they all looked up to me and my wife. After the passing away of my brother, it was really difficult because my brother, when he was still alive, he was the one who used to help me out on some of the things. But now the entire family was looking up to me so that I can assist them. And yet I only had a very small shop. So there was a time when me and my wife had gone to restock and we bought our stock. And then when we had knocked off the following morning, when we returned back to our small shop, we then found out that there were robbers who had opened our shop and they had looted everything. I mean, they looted everything and they left nothing. And doing business here in Zim, it is very difficult because when you go and buy your stock, you use all of your money, and in your stock, that is where your profit is. So we lost everything. After we had lost everything, I then spoke with this other man who is from Malawi, who had his own small shop right next to where we had our small shop. So I spoke with him about this issue because I needed his assistance. So he only gave me $200. After he had given me that $200 to restock my small shop, he then said that you need something that is going to strengthen your business so that thieves are not going to come and steal from you. I then said I do not know anyone because all my life I had never gone to these white garment prophets or to any traditional healer. So this man, he then said that in Rosa, in a village called Chiweshe, he knew this other man who could actually assist me. So when we did these things, this was in 2014, that was when we went to Chiweshe in a village called Rosa. When we went there, we arrived at this other traditional healer's place, but this traditional healer, he has his roots in Malawi, and at his place he was actually training those people that are called Gule Nkulu. And when we arrived at his house, we were then told that we were going to be strengthened, and we then went into his consultation room. When we went into his consultation room, we were then told that the price that we were then told that the money that we had to pay as a consultation fee, it was $20. And he said that do not give me this money directly, but I want you to throw it on the floor. Me and my wife, we both held that $20 note that he had said that we should pay him. We then threw that $20 to the ground and it just disappeared. He then asked me the reason as to why I had found myself in his consultation room. I then told him how much I now hated God, for I had seen that God had abandoned me and God had abandoned my brother with the way that he passed away in South Africa. This man, he then took his walking stick and he gave me his walking stick and he said that, I see that in your heart you have this desire to become rich. Do you want to be rich? And I said, indeed, I want to be rich. He then told me that I had to hit this other rock that was in his consultation room. So that was what I did. I then took that walking stick and I hit that rock that was in his consultation room. To my surprise, I then saw that this rock then transformed in itself and it became a mirror, a big mirror. At that time, me and my wife, we only had one child who was a boy. So then the mirror revealed the person that I was supposed to sacrifice, and my son was the one that I was supposed to sacrifice. That traditional healer, he laughed at me. Indeed, it was a wicked laugh. And he said, you have to sacrifice him. And I said, but this is my only son. If I am going to sacrifice my only son, then who is going to enjoy my wealth? Then he said, you are the one who is going to enjoy your wealth, because this wealth, it is only going to be enjoyed by you. You can no longer assist your relatives. It is only you and your wife and your remaining kids. You are the ones that are supposed to enjoy this wealth. For the day that you're going to give it to anyone that is related to you by blood, then it is going to run dry like a river running dry in the middle of a drought. That is what this traditional healer told me. So I then called out the name of my son, who had suddenly appeared in the mirror. After he had appeared in that consultation room, I was then told to strike him in the head with that same walking stick that I was holding. It was really difficult, but I looked at my wife and she nodded her head and she was telling me to go ahead with this ritual, murdering our own son. So I struck my son with that walking stick right on his head and he fell to the ground. There was blood everywhere, blood on my face, blood on my hands. Then I was told that I had to lick this walking stick, for it was full of blood. After I had licked it, then that traditional healer told me and my wife to return back home and to bury our son, but we were never supposed to shed a tear. When we were at the funeral, I always avoided and I reminded my wife that she was not supposed to cry. She was supposed to cry. I always reminded my wife that even when she was crying, she was not supposed to shed a tear for our son. Otherwise, our rituals were not going to work. After we had buried our son, that was when we returned back to that traditional healer. When we returned back to that traditional healer, he told us that we were supposed to do something that I never expected him to tell us to do. He told us that we had to go and dig up our son's grave. So we went and we dug up our son's grave, and I had a hacksaw. Then I started to cut my son's body parts. Some of them I went and I gave them to that traditional healer. He then told us that on my side, I was supposed to remain with my son's left hand, because my son, he used to use his left hand. He was not a right-handed person. So I took the left hand, and then the traditional healer did some rituals on it. So what I used to do the days before it had disappeared, I would go to different shops, even pass through some banks. When I would pass through a bank, I'll just take out that hand that once belonged to my son, and I'll just wave it at the front of that. Then I'll just wave it at the front door of that bank. Then I'll pass through. When I would return back home, I'll see that there will be a plastic bag that will be full of new money. This I did going around visiting different supermarkets, and I was making money. So me and my wife, we had already planned out the business that we wanted. We saw that it was far much better for us to start a small mine and having some trucks at the same time. So I actually have 3 trucks now that are on the road. They go and they fetch some groceries there in South Africa and deliver them to different supermarkets here in Harare. And the fun part about it is that most of these supermarkets where my trucks go and deliver these groceries, those are the same supermarkets that I used to go and do these rituals of stealing the money from those same supermarkets. So this traditional healer, he then did some rituals on my son's hand and it disappeared. Fast forward, me and my wife, we had 2 sets of twins, and they are all girls. And we were told by this traditional healer that in the event that he is going to die, we should not panic and we should not take our daughters to any other traditional healer if we see that they are struggling to be in a serious if they are struggling to be in serious relationships. For we dedicated our daughters to his shrine. They are going to be the wives of his shrine. The spirits that he uses, if they are male spirits, they are the ones that are going to be my daughters' husbands. For this is the price that I have to pay. Your dear listeners, right there was a message that was sent to me by one of our dear brother. Strange things do happen in this world. Stealing money, using your late son's hand, digging up your son's grave. Your